Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to keep admitting some folks in to join us tonight. And then we will get started. I will let you know that I am recording this evening so that we can post it on the website and you can access any of this information later, or you can let other families know who maybe weren't able to attend tonight that this recorded meeting is available. And I will try to get started because I know many of you are probably eager to watch tonight's presidential debate. So my goal is to make sure we have time for that. And I will go ahead and get started. And I apologize. I get a little distracted as people are entering into the meeting. I'm trying to let them in. So I'll try to keep my focus. So I'll just start by sharing with you all that my name is Katie Wilson. I am the coordinator of our IB programs. And so at Armour, that means I coordinate the middle years program and the diploma program at our school. And I've been doing this for a few years, and I was brought on to help bring the diploma program into the high school as well. And so last year we just finished with our first group of graduates who also participated in the IB diploma program. Tonight's meeting is primarily for middle school families and to talk a little bit about the middle years program, especially for those families who are new to the Armour campus. So that's going to be my focus. And we'll have other events throughout the school year to help you become better informed about certain aspects of our program or about what IB looks like at our high school and so forth. So I'll go ahead and get us started. There we go. Okay, so just to give you a nice general overview of what an IB education is. Because we are an IB World School, as we're called, we are part of a network of over 5,000, or excuse me, it's now over 6,000 schools worldwide. And all of these schools have certain things in common. So the things that I'm sharing with you this evening are things that you would see in other IB World schools around the globe. So we all have a similar mission in that the education and the experiences that we provide our students are really about empowering young people to be knowledgeable and very well-informed citizens and giving them the tools needed to help bring about a more peaceful world. So international mindedness is a big part of that mission, and helping students have that kind of worldview where although they may be learning things differently or have different ideas around the world, we still recognize the value of other people's cultures, other people's ideas. And so IB coined this term international mindedness. So you hear teachers and school leaders using that term. It is an IB term. There's the IB learner profile that we all share as part of an IB World School. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. But that's at the heart of everything we're trying to do. We're trying to develop a certain kind of learner. And the people who are a part of our school, the teachers and leaders, also work to develop their own learner profile, their own IB learner profile, and demonstrate to students those characteristics. Although we may not teach exactly the same things in all the different courses around the world, there is this conceptual and connected curriculum that all IB schools share. And then it's tailored to fit different school contexts. Not all IB schools are immersion schools. Many of them, however, are, but all IB students are learning at least a second language. And then there's these approaches to teaching and approaches to learning skills that all IB schools share. So at Academy Lafayette, we have the middle years program. starting in 6th grade when our students join. And then it extends all the way to the high school until grade 10. And then in the diploma program, all of our 11th and 12th graders are in some way participating in that program. So there's different ways in which you can participate in it in grades 11 and 12, but in grades 6 through 10, all of our students fully are middle years program students. So this is that learner profile, the IB learner profile that I mentioned. And these are characteristics that we celebrate within our students. You know, we have, in the elementary school, they have character traits. We really focus on these learner profile characteristics and traits. And teachers will recognize students for having particular, becoming particular examples of these traits in action. We also connect curriculum and activities to these traits in the sense that we're trying to help our students become all of these things. And then by the time students are finishing in the diploma program, it's just very exciting because it is very clear that these kids have these characteristics as they leave our school and head out into whatever's coming next for them. So in our in the middle years program, these are the things that I mentioned, like you will find in other schools. So at Academy Lafayette, it might look a little bit different because of the language offerings, but all of our students, excuse me, all of our students have 3 languages that they're learning in, French and English, of course. And then our 6th grade students start to explore either Chinese or Spanish. And so once they determine after grade 6 which language they want to continue study, that is their language that they'll study until the end of the program, the middle years program in grade 10. Of course, they have opportunities to continue studying those languages after grade 10 and in the diploma program. All students participate in service as action. We have approaches to learning skills, and these are the skills that no matter the subject or the topic that the student is wanting to learn, these are the skills that will help them take on new knowledge, new skills. They're what are sometimes referred to as soft skills. And then they reflect on those skills as they progress in the program. And then each quarter of the school year, teachers will evaluate students on how they're progressing on these ATL skills. And those will show up on a report card. And we'll talk more about report cards here in a bit. And then we have, the students catch on to this very, very quickly, that we have 2 different kinds of assessments. We have the formative assessment and the summative assessment. And it's this cycle of formative versus summative that really drives the instructional cycle. And that's a key piece to an MYP program. And then lastly, our grade 10 students, every grade 10 student completes what's called the personal project. And it's an individual student-driven project that the school supports. And then they get to pick whatever they want, and they really do pick all different kinds of things. And then we have an exhibition where the kids get to showcase to the younger students what they learned, what their final product looks like, and we celebrate their final piece to the middle years program. So as I was mentioning these, oops, I'm going to go back a slide here. Up here where it mentions students study a 3rd language, they're also studying design, and it's design not necessarily in the artistic way of thinking about design, but the design cycle. And so it looks a little bit different in each grade level. They're also studying in the arts, physical education, and then science and social studies. So back to this slide. So in each of those different subject areas, teachers have developed curriculum around 4 criterion, and then students are assessed on those 4 criterion through specific specialized curriculum for that subject. So if you're looking at if we're looking up here at the top, where it shows the arts, whether it's music or theater or visual arts. All of our teachers are assessing students in these 4 criterion: knowledge and understanding, developing skills, thinking creatively, and then responding. And so that's what you'll see on report cards. You will see students earning scores in all the different subjects in these 4 criterion. So one of the most important questions that parents have when they first come in and they first start getting used to changes in our middle years program is, what do these MYP grades mean? They've gotten very comfortable with that 1 through 4 scale. And now all of a sudden, students are being assessed on an 8-point scale. And not only that, there's this whole other 7-point scale. So that's part of what I want to share with you tonight, so that you better understand the numbers as you start to see them popping up in ManageBac. And then you'll better understand too what to expect of your student over time, and then how to really use that information to support your student and ask questions and track their progress. So really, when this question comes out, what do MYP grades mean? I often want people to think about, what do any grades mean? I went to a very traditional American high school. I've also taught in very traditional American high schools in the past. And, what I thought to be A work wasn't always necessarily what the teacher next door to me thought was A work. Or what does it B even really mean when it comes to knowledge and skills? So the thing about MYP grades is that they actually, from school to school, they have a lot in common. And we really do better understand, the teachers really do understand where a student is based upon how how we go about assessing students in that assessment cycle. So these are just some of those different grading scales and different grade factors that maybe you have had past experience with. There's that traditional A through F. But then there's also that 4.0 scale when we're looking at GPAs using that A through F scale. There's a 100-point scale that I know some local high schools use. Some teachers will determine a grade on a curve, whereas a teacher next door maybe doesn't. Sometimes schools will allow teachers to factor in behavior or effort or attendance. None of those things are part of grades in an IB school, at least not one that's really, practicing the assessment cycle in the way that, or the assessment system in the way that it was designed to be. So MYP grades in the same subject mean the same thing, and not just at our school, but all around the world. So teachers are trained to learn how to assess student work based upon these preset levels of achievement and the descriptors that go along with them. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, MYP grades are not associated with percentages. They're not about ranking students on a bell curve. You don't get marked down for late work or negative behavior in class or less perceived effort. Students are receiving their scores based upon their demonstrations of learning that is set by an international descriptors of achievement. So we measure against IB MYP defined criteria. So back to that chart I showed you where each subject has 4 different criteria, there's also very specific levels of achievement for each one of those criteria that teachers are using. And don't worry, I'll show you some examples here in a minute. I know it's hard to visualize if you're brand new to this. So students will get assessed in all 4 criteria at different times throughout the semester, throughout the school year in every subject. And then after students have those achievement levels, then a final overall grade is determined at the end of each semester. So here's an example of a kind of a rubric, part of a rubric for a PE class in grade 6. And the rubrics look a little bit different at each grade level because it's accounting for students, increasing expectations in each grade level. So this is for criterion C, applying and performing skills in PE. So you can see that at the 7 or 8 level, the student is not just applying skills and using techniques, but they're applying a range of skills, and those techniques that they're applying are very effective techniques. And then as to compare to someone who maybe is just achieving that 1-2 level, they're applying skills and techniques sometimes successfully, but it's not they're not doing so consistently. This 3 or 4 range really is about, it's kind of a hard thing for some people to adjust to. A 4 out of 8, if we're looking at a percentage or a fraction, is 50%. It doesn't seem like, that's okay. When we think in percentages, it just doesn't seem like that would be a good level of achievement. But in the beginning, whoops, I went back. In the beginning, when we have students who are really just learning the basics of new skills and techniques, if they can demonstrate those skills and techniques in the beginning, they're doing quite well. And so that's the importance of really understanding the descriptors at each level. And here's one looking at this language and literature course. It could be English or it could be French. They use the same criterion because our students' proficiency in French is far enough along that they are no longer considered acquiring French. They're more using French. So this is, so looking at criterion A, looking at the effects of a creator's choices on an audience, you'll see similarities where the highlighted words demonstrate the increasing level of skill that the student is able to demonstrate in the work that they've submitted. So if you think back to elementary school and that 4-point scale that was used to assess students, this is kind of a similar way of thinking about it. You are instructed by your teachers in the elementary school that you should not be expecting 4s in all of the skills of your students. There may be 1 or 2 things where they are extremely, exceed expectations and demonstrate at an advanced level. But for the most part, 2s and 3s are still showing basic and proficient grade level achievement. So it's similar in the MYP. The 7 and 8, although we have students who will achieve that level and who work really hard to achieve that level, those don't just come by chance. Not every student, most students will not achieve that level. As far as we shouldn't expect them to. We're always working to try to get them into that advanced level, but to set that as the goal for everyone in every subject and every assignment is asking way too much. So this basic and proficient level, so between a 3 and a 6, is showing that the student is meeting the expectations that have been set for the grade level and for the subject. Okay, so your students will be given formative assessments and summative assessments in all of their courses. And they will be receiving more formative assessments because those are the assessments for learning. Those are the practice skills, the possibly some homework assignments, the daily work, or maybe parts of something that will lead to a bigger project. But this is really where the student is learning through the work developed by the teacher. They may be scored using that 1 through 8 scale, but these are scores that are to inform the student how they're doing and also inform the teacher about adjustments that might need to be made to the teaching process in order to help more students achieve at different levels. So then the summative assessments are the assessment of learning. It's the summary of what the student can do after a variety of formative assessments have already been in place working on those skills. So it's the summative assessments that end up becoming really key to understanding the overall achievement of the student at the end of a grading period. Unfortunately, our students learn early on that summative assessments are much more important than formative assessments. But we do require that our students complete all the variety of assessments in order to receive their scores. So you can't just skip out on the formative assessment. And you can't miss summative assessments if you're going to complete the course. So, so that's just some languages you might hear from teachers. So just to kind of recap, formative assessment is for learning. Summative assessment is of learning. So you will see fewer summative assessments in ManageBac when we start getting more grades posted, but those will be the scores that the teacher will be used to help understand the student's achievement at the end, the overall achievement. Okay, so MYP grades they're not averaged. They are, we use a system that's called Best Fit. And ultimately what that does is it doesn't penalize students for having maybe come in without a strong set of skills in a particular subject, and allows a student to be measured by their overall achievement over time. So it rewards students for working hard and mastering those skills maybe towards the end of a semester, or versus penalizing them for what they didn't know when they came in. So this is an example of a sample grade book. And of course it will look different in ManageBac, but I did this for this purpose. So here we have, this could be any subject, by the way. We have the 4 criterion on the left-hand side, and then we have a list of 6 different summative assessments that were given over this semester. And you can see that early on, the summative assessments were lower, and they gradually increase over time. And that has to do with the students' participation in formative assessment. Also, they're great that the increase in their confidence as they're completing more summative assessments and understanding better what the expectations of the course are and of the teacher. But over time, you'll see that the scores are higher. And this is typical. This is what we typically see a majority of our students. So at the end, we have in red, let's say it's the end of the semester, the teacher is now determining the best fit score for each of the criterion. So although if you look at criterion A, although on summative number 5, the student earned a 5, based upon maybe the teacher looked at other formative assessments, or looked at the fact that there was a big jump from the 2 to the 4, the teacher decides that the best fit score for criterion A is a 4. And you can see a similar trend in criterion 5. So it's not always going to be the last summative score that was given, but more looking at the overall trends. And teachers are trained to, if there's a question as to what they should go with, most often teachers will err in favor of the student unless they have some evidence to support why they think, the lower of the 2 scores might be appropriate. Typically, this is not a challenge for teachers. The patterns become very clear. And by the end of a grading period, teachers feel pretty confident that they know where the student is because of the different rubrics that are used to identify levels of achievement. So this is something from our school website. I'll also be part of your report card when you receive it, that just kind of captures that information for you again. so that when you can, so when you're trying to better understand the report card, you can remember these details. So at the end of the semester, where you have those different levels, those best fit scores out of 8, they're automatically added together and managed back. Okay, so there's the sum of those 4 scores out of 8. So for this student, it was 20. And then to determine the overall, so rather than getting 4 scores for every subject at the end of every semester, students are given an overall level of achievement, an OLA. And that is based upon the sum of those 4 criterion scores. And then they're scaled to this 1 through 7 scale. So those scores added together were 20. So the student falls right there in the 5 range. So their final score in that course would be a 5. And what I think is really important to remember here, it's not 5 out of 7 and that percentage, but really that 5 goes along with this description. And these are the descriptions that IB provides our school and our teachers. So this student has produced generally high quality work. They have a secure understanding, critical, creative thinking. These are all very positive qualities. And so it's really going back to the descriptors that is necessary in understanding how achievement, how achievement is taking place over time and at the end of a grading period. Okay. So ManageBack, you should all now have access to ManageBack. An email was sent out to our middle school families who were new on Friday, and it allows you to just, set up your account very easily. So in that email, there's a link to our ManageBack that you can save. You can also find the ManageBack portal on our school homepage, and that's what you have right here in the bottom right-hand corner. And once you enter into that, after you've set up your account, you are brought to your parent dashboard. And so if you have more than one student, you are able to toggle between those students over there in the left-hand corner. But ultimately, our dashboards will look very similar. You do have some ability to kind of change your view. So you can, it may be that your calendar isn't up front right at top. You can have that moved around, and ManageBack seems to, excuse me. Just like any web, hold on. Just like any web-based, application, ManageBack does seem to update things without letting us know. Sometimes we'll be like, whoa, what's happened? But there haven't been any major changes that have, made it difficult for parents to continue to get the information that they need. So you can, okay, I told you that you can change that there. This is your home page. What this is, I actually a screenshot I took earlier today. And excuse me, I was just in a little bit ago and I noticed that although this was for my son, who's an 8th grader, he had no upcoming events earlier this morning. When I logged in just before we started, I noticed he does have an event. So a teacher had posted something that's up and coming. So you will see assignments posted here. And if there are major projects that are being planned out and ManageBack with students, you'll see those deadlines there. But what you'll find underneath in your dashboard is a list. Whoops, go back. Whoa, here we go. Most middle schoolers have 9 classes because of the requirements of a middle years program. So you will see a list of all of those classes there below. So here's the bottom of that page. So here's the bottom of my son's classes. And then at the bottom, you'll also see, this is where report cards are stored. So if you're not a 6th grade parent, but a 7th grade parent, you can see last year's report cards listed there. Goodness gracious. amount of practice. You don't teach all day anymore. So you'll also find a portfolio of student work as it's being built throughout the year, and the student profile, though there's not a whole lot of information there. So this is what a class overview could look like. This is a list view. So this is in his 8th grade social studies class. We see the 2 units that the teacher is currently in. So they just finished that first unit, and now they're into unit 1, creation of a new nation. And you can click into that and learn a little bit about what's in the unit, of what's going to be probably most important to most of you is what are the upcoming tasks. So it looks like he has homework, chronology due, a chronology of his life due September 20th. So I know that's assignment that he is probably working on in class, or maybe he's needing to take it home. Good conversation point. And then the assignment below that, it says completed. I'm so sorry. My keyboard is my mouse pad is touchpad is very sensitive. The assignment before that is completed tasks. You can see the score over there on the bottom right. I'm very glad to say he did do a nice job. He has an 8 out of 8. I probably wouldn't be showing it to you if it wasn't something that he wouldn't be embarrassed by, or they would be embarrassed by. So then if I go to that full calendar view and manage back, I can start to see other assignments that are posted. I put in some dummy assignments today, just so you might get a feel for what it could look like. But in that, you would be able to see, in the full calendar view, you would be able to see assignments from all different classes. So the dummy class I made today for this purpose was an English class. So those are English assignments that I posted. And then this one here is that assignment we just saw in his social studies class. So as students complete work and, complete work and the teacher starts grading work, you will, inside each class, you will see an assessment graph like this. Now, this is after multiple assessments have been added, but these are all dummy summative assessments that I scored and put in here just so you can get a feel for what this might look like. So back to that chart that I was showing you with the different numbers and the different scores, you have a nice visual in ManageBack to see how your student's doing on assignments over time. So as you can see, they've gotten better over time. Over here, I can also see the specific scores, and then I can click into the assignment and learn a little bit more about what the assignment is. For some assignments, students may be uploading work for the teacher to score right there in ManageBack, and you will have a view of that. Others assignments may be done on paper or presentations in front of the class, and you'll just have a description of what the assessment was. But teachers are asked to put major tasks, assignments in prior to the student completing them so that they can get a feel for what is coming. And parents can see how they might be able to support students on things that are upcoming. As we know, being organized is not easy for most middle schoolers. They have to learn how to become organized. Here's just another view of that same. Now there's more assignments. You can see more upcoming tasks listed there. So in ManageBack, you'll see assessments that have lines through them. Those are formative. The solid assessments are the summative assessments. So the teacher likes to see the formative assessments because they might help them better understand, how a student's doing in their practice as it relates to summatives. But they're primarily looking at those solid barred summative assessments at the end of a grading period to determine a final score in each criteria. So this is a glimpse of part of a report card. Our report cards are pretty lengthy, I have to say. But this is you can see that this is for 7th grade English, the maximum score is 8, and then this is the achievement level right next to it, right here. When all of those are added together, it's 27 points. ManageBac automatically scales it to a 6 overall level of achievement. And that's a very good score. So the Q1 report cards in October that you'll receive, you'll find out your student scores in all their different criteria in each subject, but not all criteria will likely be assessed yet. So you're not going to see an overall level of achievement. That is not calculated until the end of a grading period. So in January, you'll receive that for semester 1, and in early June, you would see that for semester 2. So you'll also see an evaluation of how students are doing in their ATL skills. And I just realized that slide did not make it in here, but our ATL skills are 5 different areas. There's research skills, social skills, communication skills, what did I say? I said 3. Communication, social, research, critical thinking skills. What am I missing here? How could I be missing it? Social communication, organizational skills. So in each class, each teacher takes one ATL skill that they work on per quarter, and then they give an indication. It's not a number. It's more like meeting expectation, exceeding expectation, below expectation. And so that's just to kind of give you an idea of what skills, how the skills are relating to the overall performance in that subject. Okay, I think we're pretty close to the end. I have this plug for any families who are interested in coming and checking out the high school. We have an open house coming October 10th from 6 to 7 p.m. And then there'll be shadow days where our 8th graders can come attend school for half a day. So just wanted to share that with you. And then I want to make sure we had some time to answer questions. I know I talked a lot and didn't let anybody speak. So I will go ahead and let's see, unmute you all. I can remember how. I think you should. You should be able to unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you still have out there. Go ahead and stop sharing that screen there.
Hi, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
When the kids are managing their own homework and assignments, do they view this in the same way, or what
Yes.
does it look like for them?
The view that the students have is very similar. And do you have a 6th grade student?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things they'll be working on, I know 6th graders don't even have their Chromebooks yet, but once they do, one of the first things they will learn to do is how to navigate ManageBac, how to use ManageBac, how to keep track of assignments and look at that calendar. It's a lot for 6th graders all of a sudden to have this access to information. So we try not to overload them. But over time, yes, they'll be able to see everything you saw, everything you can see and more, because they'll be able to actually dig in a little bit more into the assignments. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, so we have GOAT time. Hopefully you heard about that at back to school night or student success night. And GOAT time will be used to help students with this very thing, helping them learn how to use ManageBac to help to be organized and stay organized.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions out there? Please know that if a question comes up along the way, my email is pretty easy to find. It's kwilson@Academy Lafayette. And you can just, shoot me a question about if want me to go over something again. I know this is, it's quite a bit when you have kids just starting in middle school, and now they also have this new grading system that they are learning, and it might be hard for them to explain to you. So feel free to reach out. And then the teachers too. The teachers can walk you through any assignment and explain, how they went about assessing using the rubrics that are set for that particular course. This will also be an important, having that first report card and having Manage Back will also help inform you going into parent-teacher conferences in October. So I noted on the calendar that you will have those report cards before, so you can have your questions ready. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions this evening, then, oh, you're welcome, Karen. Then we can be on our way. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. I would be happy to answer any of your questions or tell you more about the IB program. There's a lot more to learn and to dig into. And I think it's pretty awesome that our kids have this experience. So I'd love to chat with you more. All right. Well, everyone, have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.